What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm petting cats and I'm talking to you about the Kickstarter stuff I backed in the month of December and why. Now, I'm not sure exactly what I did to get inundated with cats, but apparently they're going to be in the show today, so don't be too distracted by them. I'll try not to as well, as this hair flies around everywhere. They required a lot of pets. So I'm going to start things out just by saying broadly, December was kind of actually a slow month for me. I backed, not money-wise, and I'll kind of explain that, but like game-wise. So I have 2 games and a few miniature stuff that I'm going to be talking about. So the first thing that I actually finally ended up doing was paying money to Townsfolk Tussle and finally paying that shipping. I don't know why it took me so long to pay the shipping, but yeah, it was fine. I did the Brave Local Pledge. If you don't know what that is, it was like $85, and it's really their whole thing. So as you can see here, the inside the box, what they have here is just like the game itself. There was no frills, no add-ons or stretch goals. I mean, there were stretch goals, but they were all part of the game. It's just the game. That's what you get. Everybody gets the same thing, which is actually kind of nice. If there's one thing that I think separates the player base a little bit, it is a lot of add-ons, because you see people painting stuff that maybe you don't have, or playing stuff you don't have, or you're asking questions, but not everybody has the expansion. Trust me when I say playing an expansion and having questions sucks, because not everybody has it, so there's just less people involved there. But they unlocked everything, and it's a lot of nice things like bags and extra art and stuff like that. They're very smart with it. But suffice it to say, went ahead and did the Brave Pledge for $85, and then paid the modest ship. It was like 20 something or other, so not too bad there. Following that was the Ancestor Tinjin, who they just completed their Kickstarter, and if you didn't see, I actually have printed the top half of him. They kind of showed me a preview of that, and everything but 2 things were pre-supported there. It was some of the easiest stuff I've ever printed. Literally, I clicked print, it printed just fine with the settings I had already had. The supports worked out great, including the sword, which has I swear it has 10 supports max. It was actually impressive. But what was nice here is they did offer some physical rewards, so it is limited. They're not doing too much of it, but they ended up unlocking everything too, which was also kind of nice. But it was super cheap, and it was so 20 whatever that is. It was like $16, I believe, for everything, or somewhere along those lines. And to get him, and then to get his a little crow person and the fox person and stuff like that, I think ended up really well. Let me see if I can show you those, if they've updated it at all. I know you can't update it afterwards, and it was pretty close to it. So I'm not sure. Yeah, so they added this, and they added this, which were kind of big things. And then they added this, which was the last really big one there. So yeah, no, it was really cool, to be able to see that kind of early on, and I look forward to printing it. I did just get the STL. I know at least one of my patrons also did as well, and I think a lot of you probably were kind of keen on it, whether it was the physical one or the printed one or whatever. So kind of nice to see that. Following in that footstep, but a lot more expensive, was Death Goddess Azami, or Azanami is what it is. I always say that wrong. So this one was, I just got the STL Enthusiast Pledge, but I added a whole bunch. I'm recording a video. Was the STL, but I added a bunch in the Pledge Manager. I'll explain that in a bit. So the STLs is not everything. They're not allowing you to print everything, but it was kind of a nice add-on that they added. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. There's a lot of art and whatnot here. Let's go ahead. Keep scrolling. Okay. All right. So the choose one of the 2 busts. I did not. I chose both. So I actually ended up getting this one and this one. Now that's actually contrary to what I had said early on. I had said that I wanted to get the alternate bust, because you get to see her face, and I'm kind of big on having a bust if I can have an alternate pose. Just so I'm not painting the same thing twice. It's just more interesting to me per se. But at the end of the day, I actually ended up just getting her a normal. I like the sculpt a bit more. I like the fluffier hair and the kind of it has. So if you see his sculpt, and I don't know, okay, you can kind of see it here. He has a very kind of V-shaped kind of typical bust. If you've seen an actual like bust statue, they're almost always go to like a point and then kind of taper out. This is kind of that classic look that I like. Kind of looks very statuesque in a way. And the alternate post is lacking that because she doesn't have these clothes that kind of give you that sense that he gets just from his broadness and muscularness and all that. But she doesn't really have that as much. And so between that and not liking the hair quite as much and it being just 5 years more, it's not a huge amount, but it's because you're getting this separate head. And the more I looked at it, I actually like her face covered a bit more than not. So I ended up with both of those. I will be getting the Izonomy resin model to show off to you guys. So that's why I went with the STL. And I didn't end up getting his whole thing. And that's because I actually, again, my main thing is his mask that I like the most about him. And so I get that in the bust already, which I was already paying for. So looking at the rest of the model and what I get, like hers is, I just feel it like talk to me more. I really like the people pulling on her and crying and all that kind of stuff. And just seeing kind of 3 sad people on some stairs wasn't quite doing it for me. It's not that it's not a great sculpt. It's just not as exciting as the Izonomy one. I'm butchering that name. I apologize. So to me, anyway, I ended up not going ahead and grabbing that because I'm already getting that plus 2 sculpts plus 2 STLs. The STL pledge gets you one of them, and so I had to order the other one. So I believe my pledge showed up as this one actually because I had pledged a little bit extra, and so I ended up adding her instead or whatever. So that's what I ended up doing, and pretty happy with it. So but it was a lot, obviously. But that's okay. And you get some like terrain and stuff as well. Now for another game, and something I've been talking about a long time, I finally put my money where my mouth is. I backed DEI. So I talk a lot about how great I liked DEI to the point where it's one of the handful of prototypes that we continue to play after my review. A lot of times a prototype either is story based and so like you play it and then you've done it. And by the time I review games, I tend to play them a lot at multiple player counts and stuff, ideally all the way through if I can help it. And so, at different modes and stuff like that. I try to be very thorough in my reviews, which is why they're like 40 plus minutes long. But a lot of that comes with a lot of gameplay. So by the time I review it, oftentimes I'm moving on to something else, either out of necessity or just desire, especially with prototypes, because sometimes they can be long to set up or they're awkward or, whatever. DEI, we actually played after the review even as well. It's a lot of fun. And so I ended up going ahead and upping to the miniature pledge. For full transparency, they credited me this 59 so I could have the meeple pledge. They did that long after the fact, and I forget what even the delay was. But anyway, so I upped to the miniature pledge here, and I also, the hair and dander and whatnot. Which gives you a lot, as you can see, but I still wanted more. So what I also added, I did not add the 100 PVC resources. So I didn't add that. Or maybe you get seen. Okay. So yeah, this is the leader pledge, and I ended up not getting this. Instead, I just got the scrapper pledge. And the reason for that is because, again, I didn't necessarily need the PVC resources. It's okay. It's just you don't really interact with them a lot. They sit on the board and then you pick them up. And with the board already being cardboard, I didn't mind the cardboard already on it. It's one of the nice things about having a prototype is I can see things visually like that and then judge whether or not something really pops out at me. And otherwise, you're not really using them a whole lot per se. And to the point where I'm fine with just, normal stuff. I don't need anything super fancy. I'm pretty okay with that. You just pick them up and then you're done. It's not like a miniature that really signifies something like really big here. So I didn't do that. I also did not get the Citadel, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Didn't do the all-in. I did add Mad Max and the Interceptors. I did add Penny Boom, the Dynamiter. And I didn't add sleeves. I rarely do. I did not add the art book. The other one I did is I added the Cash and Rads, all miniatures. So let me explain why. A lot of it's just versatility. So I really like the core game of DEI. I like it kind of like I do Blood Rage. It's something that you can progress in one go, but it's not campaign based. You get to go and you get to try different things at different times. One of the things I liked about Twisted Fables is the amount of customization I could get by purchasing cards. That is what you find in DEI a lot too from the store. So I really like buying different stuff from the store and doing that and changing things up. And you get a little bit of the area control, a lot like Blood Rage, which is one of my favorite games. So it has a lot of stuff that I like in the game. And this just really adds more. The Mad Max and the Interceptors adds the miniatures plus the mercenaries that you get to hire that kind of changes things up. Same with Penny Boom, where she actually gets to like even destroy other people's stuff on the board. So both of these add a lot to the game board portion of it, which I appreciate. Like actually an area control portion. The cash and rads, beyond just adding two whole different factions, each one adds quite a lot of differences that are different than the main game. I don't much care about the 5 to 6 player expansion, though that is nice. I do that sometimes. Typically I'm at 4, but sometimes I'm at 5 as well. The rads guy, they actually radiate and kind of damage stuff around them, which is again very different. And then the cash group actually can add another shop, which again, I like that market. There's a market there. So you get this different markets plus a 5 to 6 player expansion, plus just more variety in what you can choose. It's like adding 2 new tribes to Blood Rage. It's like, well, now these are different. They have these different special things. And then, of course, adding the gods that you can purchase if you were to, again, go to the Blood Rage kind of comparison there. Not that the games play necessarily the same, but they have similarities in that sense. I did not get the Citadel because it is a added kind of way of playing. While you do get the versatility of these leaders, which I think is a nice change because they do add and do different things, and that does matter. The faction kind of special ability you have matters. The actual Citadel part itself, where you're playing this kind of alternate version of the game. I'm not big on alternate versions. I tend to find them less developed, less fun. I tend to dislike whatever the original vision of the game is. And so whatever the core and meat potatoes is, I don't necessarily want to do the side stuff. So sometimes, for instance, Mass of Darkness added a story mode, and it was like, well, yeah, there's a story campaign mode, but don't play it. It's not super great. Stuff like that, it's kind of a turn off for me. So I ended up not doing that. Plus the other ones had so much going for them that, they were either really cheap and added the same kind of variety of adding a mercenary versus a new player, right? But, again, for like a fourth of the cost or whatever. Or, changing it up by adding, new stores and stuff like that in the same core thing. So in other words, I like the core of DEI, and I know I like the core of DEI, so I just wanted to make that as good of a version as I could, gameplay wise, which is what I did. So that's why I chose what I did, and then, of course, paid for shipping as well. Moving on, the actual last thing I did, again, it wasn't a whole lot. It was price-wise, thanks to some resin busts and, adding a whole bunch of add-ons and stuff like that. But, for board games specifically, not a terrible amount. Sorry, thankfully. Is the Signum Workshop. That went ahead and ended on Kickstarter, and then they promptly went to this. I just did the 16. As you can see, that's what I did. It just gives me all the STLs. So I have everything. I can print it all, which is great. Love the scenery. Love the bases that we ended up getting. I believe these come with bases. Now I'm looking at it, these are all black, and normally their stuff comes with bases. I'll have to check. If nothing else, I have plenty from their Patreon. But obviously they do offer all these like other purchasable, like actual resin kits. I just recently saw one of their special, I have a Facebook group, The Kingdom. There's a link down below, by the way. It's open to everybody, not even just my channel. I'm tired of Facebook groups saying that, if you honestly create stuff for something like the community, you can't share it. So I have other creators on there sharing stuff too, and I think it's all good fun. Anyway, for that, somebody painted the vampire, the special editions miniature that I showed off, and it looked great. The quality looked good. There was some like wrapping on the back of like a sword or something like that. It looked fantastic. So it looks to me, again, I'm not seeing the resin in person, but it looks to me like it's pretty darn good. And I'm excited to print off some of these. Love Valkyries just in general. It's one of my favorite parts of God of War, the video game. And just in general, anytime I can get a Valkyrie. One of the few Blood Rage minis I painted. I like Valkyries. Battle Angels just sound cool to me. So a lot to be excited about for that. I think this is also a great one. And I think my wife might like this one too. She tends to like stuff where she can do some bright colors and stuff like that. So, that's really all I did. That's why I did it. Let me know what you backed and what you paid for. That'd be kind of, I think, interesting to see. And, yeah, I'm going to be covering January Kickstarters here soon, so be on the lookout for that. Additionally, I have a top 10 list of upcoming 2021 games that I'm looking forward to. So if you're interested in kind of the cream of the crop, after all the buzz of the big 2021 video I'm doing, I'm just limiting it to the top 10. It's a hard thing to do, but I'm going to do it just for you guys. So I'll be having that video out as well. Additionally, I have another fun video that is going to be what didn't come out in 2020 that we thought would. So in other words, what games spilled out into 2021? There were some delays. There was some rumors. There was some long announcements that, it was 2021, but we didn't know when, and it just never shows up. There's a lot of those, and so I'm doing a top 10 of that as well. And that hopefully means we'll get those in 2021, but maybe they're all just kind of out in the ether, and who knows what happened to them. I guess we'll find out. So I'll be talking about that and doing some research on that shortly as well. So if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe. Otherwise, on your way out, leave a nice comment, like, share, whatever you want to do. Just have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again real soon.